Good evening. It is 6:29 on May 4th. This is the Platting Board for the Municipality of Anchorage monthly meeting. May we have roll call?
Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Porter?
Present.
Mr. Cross?
Present.
Mr. Seward?
Present.
Ms. Ritz?
Present.
Mr. Evanson and Ms. Zenix have been excused. Thank you.
We have a quorum, the board. We have an action item. May I have a motion to approve the action item? Dan Young. Please state your motion.
Yes, I'm going to support this is the action for
April 20.
For April 20th. I'm going to support this motion for the summary of action.
Thank you. And Kevin Cross seconds the motion. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Next, are there any disclosures for tonight's matters? Does anyone have any disclosures with respect to case S12266 LJ subdivision? Well, and I see that there are none. Are there any disclosures for S12268 Valley subdivision? Oh no, just among the boards. Is everyone here? Okay. No disclosures. We have informational items that have been placed before us. They are April 18th, 2016 and April 23rd, 2016. And there is no consent agenda today, so that takes us to new business. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at this meeting is after the staff presentation is complete on public hearing items. I will ask for public testimony on an issue. People who wish to testify will follow the time limits that are established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners and their representatives have 10 minutes. They are allowed to reserve part of their time for rebuttal. Representatives of groups and PTAs, etc., community councils, are given 5 minutes. Individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked by the board additional questions. You may only testify once on an issue unless you are questioned further by the board. When you come up, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. And after we have the formality taken care of, then we'll start the clock. At this point, I'd like to call case S12266 LJ subdivision. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for subdivision of one tract of land into 5 lots and one tract of land with a variance from Anchorage Municipal Code 2180-300G, length of a flagpole portion of the lot. Property will be developed with single-family homes following this platting action. The petition site is located south of Eagle River Road, west of Greenhouse Street, north of Ptarmigan Boulevard, and east of Wren Lane. The property is zoned R7 Intermediate Rural Residential District. The State of Alaska DOT has requested that a plat note be added prohibiting access to Eagle River Road from the subdivision. There is currently one driveway accessing the subject property from Eagle River Road. The owner will need to relocate this driveway to Melody Lane. Access to lots 3, 4, and 5 will be provided via a common drive. The 3 lots will need to enter into a joint access agreement recorded on municipal form. The petitioner is dedicating 20 feet to right-of-way for Melody Lane. This dedication, along with the previous dedication of 40 feet to the west, meets the required 60-foot minimum dedication for local roads. The traffic department is recommending that improvements be made to Melody Lane with this subdivision. Staff believes that improvements to this small section of Melody Lane will do little to benefit the public. Thus, we do not recommend improvements with this subdivision. The petitioner is requesting a variance from AMC 2180-300G, length of a flagpole portion of a lot, to allow the flagpole portions for lots 3 and 5 to exceed the maximum 100 feet allowed in a suburban area. There are 4 standards required to be met for granting of a variance. I'd like to go through each standard separately. Standard number 1, staff believes that this standard appears to be met. The proposed lots could be designed in such a manner as to comply fully with the requirements of municipal code. However, the State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities has denied driveway access to Eagle River Road for any lot in this subdivision. As a result, flagpoles exceeding the maximum length of 100 feet for lots 3 and 5 must be created. This access issue constitutes a special condition affecting the subject property. Standard 2, staff believes that this standard is met. This variance will not be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to other property in the area. Lots 3, 4, and 5 will share a common drive and will have no impact on the neighboring properties. Standard 3, staff finds this standard to be met. The proposed lots far exceed the minimum size and width required by the R7 district. Granting of this variance will not permit a use that is not already permitted in the zoning district. Standard number 4, staff finds this standard to be met. The granting of this variance would negate the need to construct a small cul-de-sac accessing the proposed lots. Constructing the cul-de-sac would create an unnecessary burden on the property owner, which would likely make this subdivision unfeasible. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the variance and approval of the plat for 18 months, subject to the conditions listed on pages 7 and 8 of your staff packet. I'd be happy to answer any of the board's questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Don Porter.
Yes, through the chair, I see the other tract B and C. Is tract B prohibited from taking access from Eagle River Road?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter, tract B is not part of this subdivision. And I would suspect that access to tract B is from Eagle River Road, and it probably predated any requirement to restrict access.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? We will now open the public hearing. May we have petitioner's presentation? Please state your name.
Jonathan Lang, L-A-N-G.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and assembled public. I'm Jonathan Lang. I'm a professional land surveyor. I'm one of the principals at Lang & Associates, and I am the petitioner's representative. It's a beautiful night. I will keep my comments brief. We agree with the planning department's recommendations. If the staff has or board has any questions, I will answer them. Otherwise, I'll reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal.
Thank you. You have 9 minutes and 34 seconds. Are there any questions for petitioner's representative at this time?
Yes.
Don Porter.
So I'm still a little confused. Do tract B and tract C exist as they are shown on the plat right now?
No. The original tract A included the 5 lots we're proposing and tract C. There was a previous tract A and tract B. And I believe that was done in the early 1970s. So tract C is not a part of, tract B is not a part of this subdivision.
So as it's drawn right on the plat that we see before us is how it remains?
Yes.
I mean, originally, before we...
It was tract B, and tract A was all of these lots, including tract C.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin Cross.
Yes, as it currently sits, there's a property that sits roughly in the area of Lot 4, correct?
Yes, there's a residence, I believe the original homestead is
All right.
constructed there.
And it looks like their driveway currently cuts across what is 212 and then into 4. So there's an old existing driveway from the old homestead that comes off Eagle River Road. So they're proposing getting rid of that driveway. Is the house on lot 4? I don't know what. I guess it'll. They can keep it or it doesn't matter if it stays or not. I guess my concern is with the driveway access and that they're asking for it to be below the minimum standard because it creates an issue. I'm curious on why you're asking for a variance from the driveway width when the lots are 2+ acres, over an acre.
We're not requesting a variance for the width. It's the length of the flagpoles. This width is allowable under the old code, and this is how this was applied for.
Okay, I was looking at page 4, section E. Resolve the need for an easement for a common driveway to support access along 2 and 5 because the flagpole portions of the lots are only 20 feet wide and may not be able or practical to provide for the construction of individual driveways.
I believe the intent is to build a common driveway for 3 and 5 that 4 will also access off of Melody Lane.
3 and 5 off of Melody. Yeah.
So the flagpole will be for 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, so there'd be a shared driveway easement for there rather than each one having an individual.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Where is lot 1 going to access?
Directly off of Melody Lane. The issue that we had here, and staff stated this very well, is that the DOT will not allow us to access Eagle River Lane directly, or excuse me, Eagle River Road directly. We could have met the standard for subdivision design if we had been able to have lots fronting on Eagle River Road, but because of the unique nature of this subdivision, this is the best we could do with that restriction.
What would the cost of the cul-de-sac be?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I would guess in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000.
How much?
$50,000 to $60,000.
Okay. And the cost of the driveways, in contrast, would be what?
A few $1,000s each.
And okay, thank you. At this time, we'll open the hearing to questions or statements from the public. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Anyone at all? Okay. Would you like to use some of your rebuttal time now? Okay. The matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the request for variance from AMC 2180-300G? Dan Young. Would you please state your motion?
Yes, in the case of S 12266 LJ subdivision lots 1 through 5 and tract C, I move that for approval of the request for variance from AMC 21.80.300G, length of flagpole portion of the lot for lots 3 and 5 subject to the following conditions. 1, record a civil plat within 18 months of its approval to include any time extensions.
Thank you. And Don Porter seconds the motion. Would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support this motion, and what I found is there are special circumstances that are on this property, so they can't access from Eagle River Road. The Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities has denied their driveway access from Eagle River Road. And this access issue constitutes a special condition affecting the subject property. And in the matter of granting the specific variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property in the area. I believe they've met that. Lots 3, 4, and 5 will share a common driveway and will have no impact on the neighboring properties. With item 3, condition 3, such variance will not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the subdivision regulations or comprehensive plan. I believe this has been met. The proposed lots far exceed the minimum size and width required by the R7 zoning district. Granting of this variance will not permit a use that is not already permitted. And as far or relating to undue hardship, I believe that is met, that constructing the cul-de-sac would create an unnecessary burden on the property owner, which would likely make the subdivision unfeasible. And for those findings, I'm going to support my motion.
Thank you. Are there any additional findings being offered? Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the plat for 18 months subject to the conditions? Dan Young, would you please state your motion?
Yes, I move to approve the plat for 18 months subject to the conditions listed on page 7 and 8 of our staff packet.
Thank you. And Don Porter seconds the motion for approval of the plat for 18 months subject to conditions 1 through 6 on pages 7 and 8. Would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support my motion. These conditions appear reasonable for this plat, and some of these are typical put on any plat. So for those reasons, I'm going to support these.
Thank you. Any additional findings? Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. The board will now take up case S12268 Valley Subdivision Edition Number 1. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for subdivision of 2 lots into 2 lots with vacation elimination of 20 feet of the existing 50-foot roadway and utility easement along the north and east boundaries of Lot 2 and along the north and west property boundary of Lot 42. Valley subdivision was platted in 2015 with 30 feet half rights-of-way dedicated for Valley Avenue and Steph Street. A new home was constructed on Lot 2, which ended up encroaching into the BLM roadway and utility reservation easement. The petitioner is dedicating 60 feet for right-of-way and vacating 20 feet of the BLM road and utility reservation. The property is zoned R6, low-density residential. The subject properties meet the minimum lot size and width required by the respective zoning district and other dimensional standards required by Title 21. The subject properties meet all applicable setbacks of the current zoning standards. For right-of-way dedication, proposed Lot 43 is required to dedicate 30 feet to right-of-way on the east side for Steph Street and 30 feet of right-of-way on the north side of the property for Valley Avenue. Steph Street is not constructed and no improvements are required by this platting action. Proposed Lot 42 is required to dedicate 30 feet of right-of-way on the west side for Steph Street and 30 feet of right-of-way on the north side for Valley Avenue. No right-of-way improvements are being recommended at this time. All parcels that abut the proposed BLM roadway and utility easement for vacation have principal access and are serviced by Valley Avenue. No property will be denied access by the vacation. The BLM roadway and utility easement appears to be in excess to municipal needs. With that, staff recommends approval of the request for vacation of a portion of a 50-foot BLM roadway and utility easement along the north and east boundaries of Lot 2 and along the north and west property boundary of Lot 42, subject to the one condition found on page 7, and staff would add one amendment
which reads, number 2, resolve with MTA the need to dedicate an additional easement along the west boundary of proposed lot 42 to cover existing utilities. Staff also recommends approval of the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions 1 through 4 found on page 7 of the staff packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board, Don Porter?
Yes, normally wouldn't you put that recommendation under item B instead of item A?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter. So the MTA is asking for clarification if they have any. It's part of the 50-foot BLM roadway and utility easement, and they're the utility. Therefore, we're saying we recommend approval of the vacation based upon you resolving with MTA the need for any additional easement. So how it'll work is, we'll recommend that they can vacate that 50 feet, but if it's found MTA needs an easement, they can record by book and page an easement within that area.
Fair enough.
It's tied to the vacation.
Are there any additional questions? We'll now open the public hearing. May we have petitioner's representative?
Hello again. My name is Jonathan Lang, L-A-N-G. I'm the petitioner's representative. Again, we agree with the Planning Department's recommendations, and I would reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal. If there are any questions, I can answer those.
Thank you. Are there any questions presently for the petitioner's representative from the board? I don't see any. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Good evening.
My name's Carol Perkins. I'm the owner of Lot 42. And I don't have a concern about the right-of-way because I've said all along, N-Star and telephone is in that right-of-way. MEA, unfortunately, is on my side of the right-of-way. But I use their power, so I'm not griping too much. But I was a little confused about, and B, where it says dedicate 60 foot of right-of-way for Serapis Street. Does it say which side of the property line that's going to be on?
Okay.
Is that going down the middle of it? Because that was not what was presented at the community council, nor was it presented to me that way. That's pretty much it. I was surprised when they were talking about vacating the reserve on the north, which I agree with, but if you would include Lot 35, that would make them happier because nobody's going down there. There's a river behind, well, through the middle of Lot 35. So that's my comment.
All right. And I have questions for you from the board. If you'd please stay here. Dawn has a question for you.
So you're asking about the 60 feet. Would you be satisfied if it were centered 30 feet to lot 43 and 30 feet to lot 42?
Why does it have to be 60 foot wide? There's not even a road there now. And I don't see where you're going to be putting a road in there. Why isn't it like 25 feet, which is a lot of the community roads already? If you put one in, it's still going to be a dirt road.
Right. So I guess, would you be satisfied if you realize that you have to have, for that 25-foot road, you might have to have ditches, you might have to have all those things that would be publicly maintained, and that's what the 60 feet minimum per the municipal code.
Is that it?
So that's kind of where we're that's the request is to go to the 60-foot minimum, which is required by
To 30.
yeah, 30 plus 30. Would that be satisfactory?
So I gain nothing because you're going to have the utility easement across there also. The utility easement, MTA has buried cables down there. They also have overhead cables, but N-Star has gone down there also with the gas line.
So it looks like this platting action for lot 42. Did you say you are on lot 42? This is 42 is your lot?
Is my lot.
Okay. So the plat shows that they're going to be showing 30 feet of dedicated right-of-way out of the 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to vacate 20 feet. Is that satisfactory to you?
Well, the 20 feet that they're vacating is over where you're going to be putting the road. You said you had to have 50 feet.
No, the other 30 feet will go on the other side.
The other 30 feet is where?
The 30 feet of the 60 feet along Steffes.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And Mark Seward.
Through the chair, I think it was pretty much clarified there, but the minimum is 30 feet per each property owner, and so and that 60 feet is centered on that property line, and you're actually gaining 20 feet of land that is now in the BLM reservation there.
Well, now, my understanding was the original BLM was 50 feet each side of this property line.
Correct.
50 feet, and that was for road and utility.
Correct.
So if you're taking 30 feet, dedicating it to Steffes, we still have 20 feet, but the utilities are on that 20 feet.
That will become a utility easement and not a road reservation where they just have access to improve or dig there, but you will own that land.
Okay. All right, I understand that a little better now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
My name is Robert Nissen. Last name is Nisson, and I guess I don't know how to address this. I own the lot, directly across from Carroll 42. I'm across Valley Avenue. I'm the lot after, across the street where the new house was built, 35. That's me. Thank you, Carol. But anyway, in the meeting that they had with the community council, this was what was presented as what was going to be requested. It doesn't match what is on here. So that's one thing I came to find out, whether, what was actually being asked for. The gentleman from your company stated there were 20 feet, but that wasn't what was on here. And I asked the man specifically, there's a gray-haired gentleman in a white shirt, but whether this request was going to encroach on the existing hard surface of the road, cul-de-sac there. And he said, no. And I said, are you sure, man? Because all I done, I wanted to step it off. And I said, I come up, you're in the cul-de-sac then, if you do what you're requesting here on the Valley Avenue, the 20 feet. And today, I'm stepping off again. I think, well, heck with this. I went out, got a measuring tape, ran it down, and somebody drove a marker in Valley out in the cul-de-sac. Okay, that marker is not at 50, it's at 40 feet. I taped it off, and I couldn't figure out what the heck. So you go to 50, and then you're lined up perfectly with the yellow post on that property, new construction. It's just perfect at 50 feet. and you go 20 feet from that, and you end up at the new corner post that you guys sunk, and it's, you know, and what do you call it, a monument, whatever you drove into the ground, the middle piece there. But when you measure to it, it's at 35 feet. And in actuality, when I measured your point in the, where it was sitting, I would argue maybe it might have been 1.5 feet off further north than you needed to be. But where that monument is driven at 35 feet, you should actually be at 30. And I got a picture of the little, you're only approaching on the cul-de-sac where that post sits now, about this much. But in reality, my measurement, you should have 5 more feet out to get to that 20 foot that you're requesting and be a 30-foot road easement there. There would be 6 or 7 foot of the cul-de-sac in what you're vacating. So that was my, and I did it a couple times. I took pictures of it if anybody wants to even see them, but that's, and I know that cul-de-sac is used for a school bus turnaround where they pick up a special needs kid on our street each day, and if you take feet away from it, it's just not going to work. But it doesn't show any of that in any of the drawings that we got.
That is the time, and I have a question for you from Don Porter.
Who, from, oh.
Can you explain through the chair where the cul-de-sac that you're referring to is?
Can I show you this thing? This is what was given to, on here it would be.
Well, is it?
I mean,
is it the?
If you go to the corner of lot 40 or lot 2A, or is that what he's calling, or lot 2? Is that what you're? Lot 2. What do you have? Right in front of the new construction. There's a little cul-de-sac. It's at the corner of basically where the Steffes Road is. Where the Steffes Road is, you would come to the majority of that Steffes Road and make a small cul-de-sac.
Is it Steffes and Valley?
Yes.
So,
but there's no Steffes Road on there. But I'm just saying on your plat, Steffes and Valley, there's a small cul-de-sac there. And when I measure it off right now, the corner that is driven there is at 35 feet, and which means that it should actually, if they're requested, I assume that's the corner they were requesting. It would be 5 feet further to the north, and 5 feet further into the cul-de-sac. Right now, it's about this much of where the corner post sits. But when I measure, I mean, it measures out exactly at 35 feet, and it should measure out at 30, right? I mean, that's what's being requested. It should be vacating 20 feet, and there should be 30 feet of road. And I just did that this evening again. I mean, I'm thinking I'm pacing it off, thinking I'm getting crazy, and I don't know. Is that monument that's driven there? Is that what you intended to be the corner of this request?
Direct your comments.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
In rebuttal, he may speak to that issue.
Okay.
So I guess. So what are your objections to? Could you maybe give me a summary?
Okay. All this happened supposedly because of mislocation of construction. They decided to move the house construction further to the east than originally planned, and they didn't put it in the right place. But nobody's ever said what the required vacation of property was needed in order to be legal, because they don't have enough setback right now because they mislocated the house. Okay. But there's nothing wrong with the front edge. They built, Troy built the house next door just before this one. They're not asking for a vacation of property on Valley for that one. There's nothing, as far as my knowledge goes, there's no construction reason for the request on Valley. I don't know what, but I've never heard the stated, you know, I was told one thing, I don't know if it's at the community council, that it was 3-point-something feet that they literally needed to be in compliance to have the setback. But
okay. Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Mark Seward.
Through the chair, Mr. Mission, commonly on these, on the east property line where the encroachment problem is, on Steffes, vacating that. At the same time, it's very reasonable to vacate and dedicate on the north side of Valley Avenue, just get it all cleaned up to the minimum 60-foot right-of-ways or 30-foot half right-of-ways to the municipality. On the cul-de-sac, what's very common too is possibly having a temporary turnaround radius, and notes go in the future when the road is extended that cul-de-sac easement is eliminated if Valley was extended to the east, because there would be no future use or need for it at that time. Would you have any objection to that, is my question.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
Around that
I'm not
cul-de-sac.
saying the home is actually owned by my son-in-law's employees, so I can't know the question. So I'm not trying to be an enemy here. It's just I was told one thing. I was told that absolutely it did not encompass any of the hard surface, and I left that meaning, okay, I must have measured it off wrong. So I went back and I did it again, and then I literally went to the trouble of getting tape out and measure it, and that didn't appear to be the case. So I came saying that as it exists right now and is being used, and I don't know what happens when you guys do this stuff. Does that mean that at the end of your hearing and you vacate that stuff, that the property owner begins redoing and using that piece of property? And if he does, he's going to affect the present traffic situation the way it is, because it is a dead-end street with that little cul-de-sac. Is that? And then you're asking if I'm okay with it if it stays that way
In that cul-de-sac area, if it exceeds that 60-foot width or radius, it's common to just create a temporary turnaround where then it's still open to the public and used by the public in the cul-de-sac that, say, it's 50 or 60 foot wide. It's used there. Then upon the continuation or improvements of Valley Avenue to the east, if that was ever done, that cul-de-sac easement would be eliminated because there would be no need for it.
Well, that would happen if whether you took and continued Valley to the east, or in my mind, the only way you'd actually continue the traffic flow would have been to come down Valley and then go up Steffes to the south to connect back up to whatever that street is. I mean, that would have been the more practical way that you would have created flow through traffic. But yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, my concern is, do you change, or if they change that part of the road, is anybody responsible to increase its width at the other side to make it functional still? Or does it disappear?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at tonight's hearing?
Can his wife speak?
Yes.
My name is Elaine Nisson, Nisson. My concern is we have a builder, Troy Davis, who made a mistake, a 5-foot mistake. He doesn't even get a slap on the wrist. He gets this land over here where his mistake was. Plus he gets 20 feet of the road for that house. He can't close on that house until he gets it right. Are we here to just give him what he wants so he can do it again and again? I don't know. That's just my question, and maybe I can't give a question, but that's my concern. Why is he getting the road? That's all.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at tonight's hearing? Anyone at all? Mr. Lang, would you like to use some rebuttal time? You have 9 minutes and 47 seconds.
Thank you. If I can speak to the concerns that were expressed by the public, Ms. Perkins talked about the right-of-way, and the dedication here, which was not previously dedicated, would be 30 feet on either side of the property line between lots 42 and 43. That would be shared. The requirement of the 50-foot BLM reservation on either side is a 100-foot wide right-of-way. So what this does is this affects the setbacks for structures that are built on these lots. So what she's gaining on Lot 42 is the ability to build closer to where the Steffes Street has been dedicated adjacent to her property. It's important to note Valley Avenue is constructed up to a turnaround that exists on Lot 34C and Lot 43, as shown on here. It does not continue on to, I believe that's Lot 35 and Lot 42. I say turnaround rather than cul-de-sac because it's not a constructed cul-de-sac. It looks like a cul-de-sac. It's a turnaround. It's a paved area that exists entirely within the 60-foot dedication for Valley Avenue. Looking at this area, I don't think the aerial is very clear. There are driveways that go to the north on Steffes Street. There are driveways that go to the east in Valley Avenue. There are no improvements in either of those dedications. It's other than driveways, so there's no constructed right-of-way there. So again, the benefit to these lots is in the setbacks. As Ms. Nissen had stated, the house that was done by a previous surveyor was constructed within that BLM right-of-way on Lot 43, and that was the intent of this vacation originally, so that we could bring that structure within compliance. When she stated that we're vacating right-of-way, we are vacating that BLM road reservation. We're dedicating the right-of-way, or we're maintaining the established dedicated right-of-way. We're just trying to bring the house in compliance, so I don't see that necessarily as a reward. And as also mentioned, if you continued Steffes Street to the north about another 500 feet, you'd be dropping into Peters Creek. And if you continued Valley Avenue beyond the lots that are shown here in the preliminary plat, you'd also be dropping into Peters Creek. So neither of those right-of-ways can be extended very far without running into Peters Creek. Extending Steffes Street further to the south, you'd be running into a steep hill, which is about a 30-foot drop from Birchwood Loop down to where the properties are now. And that's all I have, unless there are further questions.
Thank you. Don Porter.
Through the chair, Mr. Ling. In your experience, this is a pretty standard process, right? We start with a very wide right-of-way that has no idea of what it's going to be in the future, and then as development comes, we actually dedicate right-of-way. It's not a gift to any of the landowners. The easements are actually owned by the landowner over the top. They just have to put a road in it, right?
That is essentially correct. You have a BLM road utility reservation, which is there for the creation of road purposes. The municipality has decided that a 60-foot right-of-way, 30 feet on either side, is the suitable amount of right-of-way necessary. And all we're doing is conforming with that standard and vacating the excess.
So you feel very comfortable with the 60-foot request for right-of-way, and this is a very standard process in your experience?
Yes, I would agree with that. I think that Steffes Street to the south is unnecessary. As stated by Ms. Perkins, there's nothing constructed there. There are no driveways there. I believe the lots to the south have access from the south as well, but it's a requirement that we do dedicate that right-of-way, and therefore we're doing that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing no further questions, we'll now close the public hearing and the matter rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the request for vacation? Don Porter, would you please state your motion?
Yes, I move for approval in case number S12268, and approval or request for vacation of the portion of a 50-foot BLM roadway and utility easement along the north and east boundaries of Lot 42, Valley Subdivision 2015-119, and along the north and west property boundary of Lot 42. So I believe that to be the north and east of Lot 43. And along the north and west property boundary of Lot 42, Section 9, Township 15 North, Range 1 West, Southern Meridian, subject to items 1 and 2, the first being recording of a suitable plat within 24 months of its approval, and any approved time extensions, and item 2, resolved with Matanuska Telephone Association the need to dedicate an additional easement along the west boundary of proposed Lot 42 to cover existing utilities.
Thank you, and Dan Young seconds the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, based on the discussion that we've heard today and comments from MTA and as well as comments from the public, I am inclined to support this motion. They have met the standards for vacation, and they are dedicating right-of-way, which is up to and required by municipal code.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or findings? Dan Young.
Yes, I intend to support this motion, except for MTA. Apparently the agencies had either no comment or no objection to the vacation. The issue with MTA is in item 2 to resolve the need to dedicate additional easement, so that's covered. The utility easement appears to be in excess of municipal needs, and the lots meet the minimum lot size and width requirements. So with those findings, I intend to support this motion.
Thank you. Any further findings? Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the plat subject to conditions? Don Porter.
Yes, in the case of S12268, I move that we approve the plat for 24 months subject to the following conditions, which would be 1 through 4 with 4A, B, and C. 1 is resolve utility easements. 2 is dedicate 60 feet of right-of-way for Steffes Street. 3 is dedicate 30 feet of right-of-way for Valley Avenue. And 4 is to place plat notes A, B, and C. I won't read them into the record, but there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dan Young seconds the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support this motion. I believe that based on the discussion and presentation from both staff and surveyor that we are meeting the municipal code requirements for the plat, and I intend to support the motion.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by Anchorage Municipal Code 21.11.304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing becomes final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 21.11.503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 21.30. Are there any persons to be heard tonight? And any board member comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn now. Dan Young moves, and Don Porter seconds. Anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes, and we stand in adjournment.